Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs. Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs.
What is going on, guys? Mr. Will here, and I'm back with another tier list video. And this time I'm going to be doing Batman animated movies. Now, I made this tier list myself because I didn't watch every single Batman animated movie. Like, I didn't watch the Monsters Unleashed or Animal Instincts or whatever they're called. I didn't watch the Batman/Supermans, and I obviously didn't watch the anime ones because I'm not an anime fan, so obviously I wouldn't. But, I'm not going to waste any time talking. I'm going to immediately start off with the D tier, and I'm going to put Batman the Killing Joke as it should be on the D tier, because the first half of the movie did not need to happen. Like, it has no vital point in the storyline for Joker, and the second half of the movie speaks for itself. Like, I wasn't a fan of the Batman and Batgirl storyline. If you watch the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's disgusting. It did not need to happen. And the whole Gordon thing at the end, if you watch the movie, you know what I'm talking about. This movie easily deserves a D tier. I mean, hey, if you liked the Batman and Batgirl thing, do you, fine, but I didn't, so I'm going to put it on the D tier list, and I'm sure a lot of people would also. Next up on the C tier list, we're going to put Batman Year One. Now, this one might shock a bunch of you because a lot of people like this movie because it is a Batman, a Batman origin story, and a lot of people like this origin story, and I didn't like the origin story. It was slow paced, and it was more of a Gordon storyline, which is fine. I mean, I'd be down for a James Gordon movie, but I feel like what they did with this movie is they just made it too slow paced, focused a lot on Gordon instead of Bruce Wayne becoming Batman. I mean, a lot of people might disagree with me here, but I wasn't a fan of this movie. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't worse than The Killing Joke, obviously, but I just didn't love it. Next up and last up on the C tier is going to be Batman and Harley Quinn. This movie was obnoxious. It was silly. There were fart jokes, I think. That's just not a Batman movie, obviously. There was a scene with Nightwing and Harley Quinn. If you watch the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, this movie was too silly. It was obnoxious. You know, there's not much to be said about this movie here. And next up, we're going to go to the B tier list, and I'm going to put on the B tier Batman Bad Blood. Now, when I first watched this movie, oops, dropped my phone there. When I first watched this movie, I thought it was a top tier, S tier movie. I was intrigued with it. I loved it. But then I watched it like 2 or 3 more times, and I'm like, you know, this doesn't seem like an S tier movie to me. Like, it's good, it's just not great. Like, if you know what I mean. There was this whole storyline where Talia wanted, like, the perfect son, so she made a clone of Damian to kidnap Bruce, and it's like, throughout the entire movie, you're, like, trying to figure out where's Batman? Where is he? Who kidnapped Batman? This big brute of a man kidnapped him. Who is that guy? Takes off the mask, it's a Damian Wayne clone, you're like, oh, well, that was underwhelming, you know? I mean, you guys might have been like, oh my god, that's so great, which is fine, but I wasn't one of those people, so I just didn't like that plot twist. The movie in general was good. I enjoyed it. It was fine, but it just wasn't great. Next up on the B tier, I'm going to put another DC AMU movie. I'm going to put The Son of Batman. Now, again, kind of similar with Batman Bad Blood, except highly opposite. When I first saw this movie, I'm just like, you know what? This movie was really boring. I didn't like it. It was too slow paced. But then when I watched it 2 or 3 more times, I'm like, wow, did I really not like this movie? This movie is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed this movie. Like, I enjoy Damian Wayne. A lot of people don't. I do, because he's a character raised by the League of Assassins who's trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, trying to cope with Batman's code. And I think they did that really well in this movie. This is a great start to the arc of Damian Wayne, which continues on in later movies, which we'll talk about later on in this video. But I thought they did a great job developing Damian Wayne, developing his character, developing his arc on figuring out what's right and what's wrong, and trying to not go against Batman's code. I think they did that very well, and I think they continue to do that well in future movies. Next up on the B tier, I'm going to put Batman vs. the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, the thing about this movie is it was entertaining. I liked the movie. The thing about it was, though, is that they made Batman kind of dumb, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. In one scene, him and the Turtles were getting ready to go up against a bunch of Batman's rogues galleries, mutated. And he's just like, at least I got my utility belt. Like, are you kidding me? That just makes Batman sound really dumb, and that's not who Batman is, but other than that, the movie was entertaining. I think Michelangelo was the one that saved Batman from getting mutated, which I really liked because Michelangelo is my favorite turtle. So seeing him and Batman kind of, how do you say this? Kind of like, interact together. That was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the fact that all of Batman's enemies became mutants. That was pretty cool, despite what people might say. I don't know if people like it or not, but I liked it. Thought it was pretty cool. Last up on the B tier list, I'm going to put the Lego Batman movie. Now, story about this movie is, I think it was 7th or 8th grade when this movie came out, and I went with 2 other of my friends, and I went into this movie, I'm like, oh man, this movie's going to be so bad. This movie is going to be terrible. I just wasted however much it was. I think $7 on the movie. I'm just like, oh man. But then I sat down, the movie started, I'm just like, wow, this wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. There was one scene where obviously Batman's silly, that's the point. There was one scene where Robin was going around touching every one of Batman's equipment, and he's just like, oh, stop touching that, stop it. And then Robin gets to the shark repellent, the bat shark repellent, and then Batman goes, oh, that's pretty much useless, you can take that. I thought that was pretty funny. There's another scene where I think it was near the end of the movie where the Batcave asks for the code, and Batman goes, Iron Man sucks. That was pretty funny too. I liked the movie. The jokes were funny. Obviously, it wasn't made for to be serious, so that was the point of the movie. That's why I put it on the B tier, because I thought it was entertaining for what it was trying to be. Last up on the B tier list, I'm gonna put oh, you know what? I think all of these other movies deserve higher than that. I'm gonna start off on the A tier list now, and I'm gonna put Scooby-Doo and Batman the Brave and the Bold, actually. I'm going to put that on the A tier list because I really like Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated and Batman the Brave and the Bold, and they're both great shows from the 2010 era of Cartoon Network, which I think that's when it was in its prime. I think they delivered this movie very well. I think it was greatly executed, if that makes sense. Again, I think I've seen this movie like 2 years ago. I don't remember much about it, but I just remembered that it was great and I enjoyed it, so I'm going to keep it there on the A tier list. Next up on the A tier, I'm going to put the Lego Batman movie, DC Superheroes Unite. I'm going to put that on the A tier list because the game was incredible. I'm not going to go into much detail about this movie because I pretty much explained it on my Lego games tier list, but what they did with this movie is they made the video game cutscenes into a movie by adding extra scenes, and they actually made it into a movie on Cartoon Network, and I think that was a really great idea because I really enjoyed the video game, so obviously I enjoyed the movie. Next up, and last up on the A tier, I'm going to put Batman Hush. Now, a lot of people don't like this movie, and I'll tell you why. It's a very, very long comic bashed up into 1 hour and 20-minute long movie, and people say that it didn't live up to its expectations. Now, I disagree. I really enjoyed the movie. I think it was great for what they did. The plot, the only thing that disappointed me at first was the plot twist with Hush. Now, I'm going to tell you what that plot twist was. If you didn't see the movie, close out of the video. The plot twist with Hush is the Riddler, not Thomas Elliot, who he is in the comics. That's the thing that I didn't like at first, but then I rewatched the movie. I'm like, you know what? When I saw this movie for the first time, that surprised me. And I'm rarely ever surprised. So I like a good surprise. So that was actually a good thing that they did because it surprised me. And I love getting surprised. So I think the plot twist with Hush being the Riddler was pretty good. As a matter of fact, the last time I said it was bad. I think it was pretty good. And the movie itself, I like Batman's Rogues Gallery, and most of his enemies were actually in this movie. I think there was Joker for a short period of time. There was Harley Quinn. There was the Riddler, obviously. There was Hush. There's Scarecrow was in the movie, too. I think Clayface was. I'm not sure about... There were brief scenes with Two-Face and Penguin, with him and Catwoman fighting them, but like pretty much all of his major enemies were in the movie, and I really liked that. Now, all of these movies here are on the S tier list, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on the S tier list, and the last one I put on the S tier is my favorite Batman movie of all time. Can you guess it? Or favorite animated Batman movie, I should say. First up on the S tier list, I'm going to put Batman Assault on Arkham. Now, besides the live-action movie, I love me a good Suicide Squad story. Suicide Squad Hell to Pay was an excellent movie, and that inspired me to watch Assault on Arkham. Now, it's more of a Suicide Squad story than a Batman story, but Batman's in the movie, and the title is Batman Assault on Arkham, so I'm including it on the list. I really liked it. I liked the Deadshot storyline. I liked the characters that they had in this movie, too. It was a good selection of characters. I think King Shark was in this movie, but he wasn't in Hell to Pay, which was pretty cool, if you ask me. Next up on the S tier, I'm going to put Batman vs. Robin. Now, Batman vs. Robin is another one in the DCAMU that tries to sort out Damian Wayne's character arc, trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong, trying to figure out Batman's code. And I love the Court of Owls, and the Court of Owls is the main antagonist of this movie. The one reason I'm excited for the new Batman game is because the Court of Owls is the main villain, and I really love the Court of Owls. So I've said. But, yeah, I think the way that Damian Wayne and Batman had trust issues with each other was really well executed. They really made a giant step forward in this movie with Damian Wayne's arc. I think he had a big change of heart in this movie, which was really good. I really liked that. They closed the arc out in Batman Bad Blood, which was a good closing, but the movie Batman vs. Robin was just so much better. And it was my favorite DCAMU movie before the newest one, which was the Apocalypse War. But Batman vs. Robin is just a good movie to me because I love the Court of Owls and I love Damian Wayne. Next up on the S tier, I'm going to put Batman The Dark Knight Returns. Now, I hesitated to watch this movie for a long time because I didn't like the fact of an old washed up Batman, and boy was I wrong. This movie was incredible. The old washed up 50, 60-year-old Batman has to get back into crime fighting because crime starts to elevate higher than it ever has before in this movie, and Gordon and the police force can't do much about it, so they need Batman back, and he has to get back into the fighting. He has to get back into his original state. He has to get back fit, and he has to get ready to go. And I think that was a great story. Now, I think this was a comic in the 80s or 90s, and this was a two-parter movie, actually. This was a 2-hour and 40-minute movie. So what I did was I watched part 1 on one day, and then part 2 on the next day, because it's split into 2 movies, and I think they did that really well. Because unlike Batman Hush, if they made this one movie, hour and 20-minute long movie, it would not have worked. There's just too much stuff to cover for it to be one movie. I think it was a great idea that they made it 2 movies, a 2-parter movie. Next up on the S tier, now this is the deciding factor on which one is my favorite. But I'm going to put Batman Under the Red Hood on first. I love Jason Todd. I love the Jason Todd storyline. I love the Jason Todd and Joker storyline where Batman was just too late to make it to Jason Todd. That's Batman's biggest failure ever, and they made it into an excellent movie with the Red Hood. Now, I haven't seen A Death of the Family because the only way I'm gonna have to get it is on Blu-ray, because I'm not gonna buy the digital version, because the digital version is only 30 minutes and you can't do the interactive stuff on the digital. So I'm gonna wait a little bit longer. But what they did with Red Hood in this movie was incredible. I think Jensen Ackles played Red Hood really well, and And Joker, voiced by John DiMaggio, was really well too. I just loved everything about this movie. This was a great movie. Can't stress it enough. But my favorite animated Batman movie of all time is Batman Gotham by Gaslight. Now, let me tell you something about this movie. This movie is a Victorian age Batman movie with Jack the Ripper as a killer. Now, this movie takes place in the late 1800s, early 1900s with Jack the Ripper, and it was great. I don't know, it really surprised me. The plot twist at the end surprised me. It had me guessing throughout the movie, who is Jack the Ripper? Who is Jack the Ripper? I thought it was Hugo Strange, and then Hugo Strange died because Hugo Strange would be the obvious choice. I was wrong. Jack the Ripper is, get this, Jack the Ripper is James Gordon. It's just, that's surprising. I bet you, if you didn't see this movie, I just surprised you and your jaw just dropped. It's crazy. If you don't believe me, watch the movie or look it up. This movie was a great reimagination of Batman in the Victorian age. I think it was just really well done. But that's gonna have to do it for this tier list video. I hope you enjoyed. If you disagree, please kindly disagree in the comments. I don't think anyone's gonna disagree about the Killing Joke, which is good. But if you disagree, don't yell at me. Just feel free to hit the dislike button or disagree kindly in the comments. And hey, I wouldn't mind a like either. That would be nice. But thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.